Today we're talking with Tom Babin, who is also known online as the Shifter, and Tom just launched a new Intro to Commuting course. So Tom, we're in an office that is filled with riders who are commuting every day. What do we need to know about riders who are starting their commuting journey?
Yeah, I think about these people all the time. I think cycling is filled with a world where we assume everybody knows everything about cycling. And just from my work on YouTube, a lot of the questions I get were from people who are asking really basic questions that I kind of assumed that everybody knew. And over time, I just realized, like, this is not common knowledge. Like, it's not really taught in schools. People who do it, they seem to have just picked all this stuff off on their own, or by talking to friends, or like going to get down rabbit holes on the internet. So it really was pretty basic. I came from a starting place of like, yeah, you can ride your bike, but maybe you've only ridden it for pleasure on a Sunday, on a slow ride on the pathways. And so the things that really stress people out, I think, about commuting and what we need to think about is like, just think if you've never ridden on a street before, like if you've never ridden near cars, if you've never ridden for transportation, even like all these basic questions about like, if I'm riding to work, for example, what do I need to carry? What do I need a bag? Do I need a backpack? Like super basic stuff like that. People actually have to like think about it and research it because this is not common knowledge. So when I approached this, it was just like, if you've never actually ridden a bike for anything other than like a pleasure ride for ice cream on a Sunday, what do you need to know? So when you start thinking about it, it's actually a kind of a lot of information. I think a lot of us have internalized it, but there's a ton of stuff there that you need to know.
Yeah, I think that we take a lot of what we've learned for granted, but what are some of the things that you hear people say, or some of the things that people ask you when they're starting their commuter journey?
One of the most common questions I get is like, hey, when I'm bike commuting, what do I wear? Like, that seems like a pretty basic question, right? But there's a ton of nuance to it. It depends on if you're riding, if you want to go fast and get a workout, you probably dress differently than if you're just riding, if you just want to roll up to work and like get up to your desk and start riding. So there's nuance in what you're going to wear. I get this question all the time is like, how do I carry my stuff? Like, I have a backpack. Is that good enough? Is that going to, and like, yeah, of course that'll work, but also there's better ways of doing it. Like a lot of people are surprised when you say like, oh, you can just there's backpacks you can get that'll go on your bike rack too. And they're like, a bike rack? Like really basic stuff like that too. Lots of gear questions. Like I think I know this is a North American thing, but we get really deep on gear sometimes too. And I think sometimes we overthink it. And so I get lots of like, what kind of tires do I need? Or like, do I need a dropper post? Like the things that we need, I think too. So a lot of my mission is just like trying to simplify it as much as possible. I love like the simplicity of like a good, simple bike. Like part of my joy in that is just get up and ride, just go. And so a lot of this course, I think, is just like trying to like boil it down to the basics, give people a bit of confidence to get out there and going. Another question I get all the time is like about shoes. There's like the clipless pedals, which are also weird. Like, why do we call pedals that you clip into? Why do we call them clipless? Like, it makes no sense, right? So what kind of shoes do I need? Do I need cycling shoes? Like, those sorts of things too. And you can get as deep into the stuff as you want. Like if you really love the gear, you can go really deep and people love that. But others are just super intimidated or not even interested in that. They just want to know, like, give me the basics too. So there's a lot of nuance when you get down to it.
Yeah, you're right. I think we need to realize there's a spectrum of riders out there, and some are on the introductory side where they just want to get moving with this. I think you have people who love riding bikes. Maybe you're doing it on the weekend. And then I think there's the super users who bikes are already a key component of their lives, and they just want to be able to find out how they can commute effectively more. So when you're creating a course like this to give information to that full spectrum of users or this full spectrum of riders, where do you start?
Yeah, I always try to start at the basic level, and that's about the bike. And I'm always, the message I always say is you don't need a special bike. Whatever bike you have is the best bike to use. But that's a good place to get started. But once you get past that, I think there's lots of things to think about around the bike. And, one of the reasons I love priority bikes is because they're just like, I really encourage people just to have a bike that's just going to work for you, right? One that you don't have to think about too much. Like it's just there. It's going to work. You don't have to worry about maintenance too much. You don't have to stress about, tweaking derailleurs all of the time. Like, of course, there's a maintenance involved in a bike, but, I just love the simplicity of a nice, good bike that just works. So I approached it like, let's get you up and riding so you're confident riding. And then from from there, it's the next step is like, well, let's carry stuff. I think if you're riding your bike for transportation, you need to be able to carry stuff. And so that's the next step. And there's lots of options there. And then once you get confident with that, then there's things like route selection. I think this is really important when you're riding in a city too. I think people get really intimidated for good reason. Like they're not just going to take the same route they drive a car. They're not going to ride the same route. And so there's ways of thinking about the route you take. I'm always advocating like, find the side roads, cut through the park if you can, find those seams in the infrastructure that work for you. Or, for me in my ride, I often ride out of my way by a few blocks if there's a safe bike lane there. But if you've never ridden or thought about it that way, you're like, our mental maps for driving a car are different than they are for riding a bike. So you sort of have to like rebuild that mental map a little bit. Weather is a big thing. So that's next. Like once you're riding on those nice days, well, how do I extend that? How do I get through if it's going to rain on my ride home? What do I need to pack differently? So I like to just start really simple and then just sort of add these layers onto them. Locking a bike, like how do you keep your bike safe at work? I think this is an underappreciated barrier for a lot of people. Is like, I've got this bike that I love and I'm scared of leaving it at work. So like, what can I do to make that safe as well? And then it sort of builds and builds and builds. And then the last piece I always talk about is the attitude. Like I think in a lot of North American cities where it's not that easy to ride, you really need to like adopt an attitude of experimentation. Like I'm going to get out there, just give it a try. Like it's a bit of trial and error. Don't go out and spend a bunch of money right off the bat, but ride a little bit, find out what you like, what you might need, and then sort of build it up that way too. But I do think that attitude of like learning, experimenting, trial and erroring is great. One of the things I love about cycling too is like I've been doing this for 20 years and I'm always trying new stuff still. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And I think that's one of the fun parts about it as well. So I think just start simple and then try to build from there.
20 years of commuting and all the different content that you've made. I'm sure there's a lot of challenges in pulling it together. So what goes into creating the course?
The genesis of this whole thing was my YouTube channel, where over the years it's been one of the sort of the pillars of content that I've worked on is like trying to demystify cycling, just add these tips for users. And so a lot of this content, I have covered over the years on YouTube, like it's there and it will always be there, but it's a bit scattered. And a lot of times it was me like experimenting as I went, like bringing the viewer along with me as I learned the best kind of saddle to use, right? And so when I thought about making this course, I thought like, let's just boil this all down to like all the stuff I've learned in like a super functional, practical guide in a more linear way too. So you don't have to like hunt down all the rabbit holes. It's just all there for you. And it's easy. And so I just try to put it that way. Like I try to make it as straightforward, not enough of, as possible. Try to get rid of some of the stuff that you get in some of the YouTube videos about, that you're fast forwarding through, fast forward, skip to get to the stuff you want. I'm just trying to make it like as practical and functional as possible.
Yeah, that's great. And that's a ton of information for people. So how is the course set up?
Yeah, it starts off with sort of an intro and then a discussion about the bike, your options, really basic conversation about, like, I think a lot of people don't understand, when I say a city bike, for example, people have lots of different ideas of what that might be. So I break it down to the types of bikes and then the gear options, do things like, do you need lights? What kind of rack should you have? How do you carry your stuff? And then from there, it moves on to questions about route selection, how to ride in different weather, rain, snow, cold, heat, those sorts of things as well. There's a big section on keeping your bike safe and secure, how to lock it properly, those sorts of things as well. So it's really all the basics, all the things that I feel like I've picked up over the years, hopefully in a linear way that will make sense to you as you go through it.
All right, as I'm listening to this, I'm just thinking about all the times that I know I've done this, and I'm sure other cycling fans have done this, where we try and compel our friends or partners to ride with us, and it can be met with resistance. And sometimes we just keep trying to do it. And I think we need to appreciate that there's probably a more gentle way to do it. So what are some of the things for cycling fans, maybe people who are already comfortable as commuters or riders, what are some of the things that we can take into consideration to get other people to join us on the cycling journey? Yeah,
I know what you mean. Like, I think you said earlier, like the word gatekeeper. I think as cyclists, sometimes we're almost like overly enthusiastic. Like we love it so much that bringing somebody in is almost just like, take it easy. I've had this experience too, where I'm like really encouraging someone, and they're just like, "Hey, take a step back." So I do think it's removing the barriers as a part. I also don't think like people who are sort of on the fence about cycling, like I think they almost just need a nudge to give it a shot. And for me, I often find like it's just sharing what I love about it. I think is helpful to them too. Like just for as one example, the health benefits of riding a bike are every day are amazing. There's this British study I quote all the time that studied a group of people over 5 years, and those who rode their bikes to work had something like a 41% lower risk of death over those 5 years. Rates of heart disease and cancer were 50% lower. This is insane to me. Like if this was a pill, right? Everybody would take this pill. But it's just such a simple thing. And people, when you break it down like that, I think it helps people like, oh yeah, especially we're so busy, it's hard to get to the gym, like getting activity in your day. When you've got kids at home, like it's really tough. That's what motivated me in the first place. So things like that, I often talk about like how I love, like at the end of the day, how it just clears my head when I'm riding home. It makes me a better person in lots of ways. Those connections I get to my community, to other people, the community that builds up around cyclists. If you pull up to a stop and there's other cyclists around you, you can chat with people. You can chat with them. You can't do that in a car. So I think those little motivators like are really encouraging. When I first started, I would be like, maybe a little bit too focused on like speed and like, performance and that kind of stuff too. And I think if you're new, that kind of stuff, that might be a motivator for some people, but for others, I think it's just like a gentle nudge about like, it really can make your life better. Like I feel so many benefits in my life from riding a bike every day that I'd love to share that. And, I don't ride fast. I don't have many technical skills, but even still, it just makes my life better in so many ways.
Yeah, the statistics you mentioned are great, and they're very impactful. I think people don't necessarily realize how much activity they can get on commuting without really taking out time of the day. I mean, how much time do you find that you're on the bike in your commute?
So my daily commute is about 8 or 9 kilometers. So what is that, 3 miles, something like that. It's about a 30-minute ride every day. So going to and from work, that's, an hour of activity in my day that I wouldn't get otherwise. So that's, and it's not adding any more. It takes me almost the same amount of time to drive a car. So I could drive a car and then be stuck in traffic and swearing the whole time. Or I could ride a bike, and that's the best part of the day. So I get that activity. We all hear those stories about those super commuters who like ride their bike for like, a 2-hour commute in and out every day. And those people are amazing. But you don't have to do that. Like there's no test to qualify as a good commuter or not. I just think any little bonus is great. And then there's other things beyond the fitness of it or the health of it, like just clearing your head at the end of the day. There's a grocery store in my home that I stop by all the time. Like it's just so easy to pop in and out when you're on a bike, just to pick up a few things on the way home. So it's just so convenient in so many ways. And as a commuter, I find like it may not always be the faster than driving a car or taking the subway or something like that. But I do find it more predictable, right? When you're in a car, how often do you like get stuck because there's a traffic collision on the route and the traffic is backed up? That almost never happens on a bike. I know how long it's going to take me to get anywhere almost every day.
Well, you talk about cycling and, you talk about the passion that you obviously have for it, but I know that you also have a real job to do every day. So for you personally, what is it that inspires you or invigorates you or really makes you want to take the time to create the content, to field questions from people in a very nonlinear way? I mean, you're getting questions from email, from Patreon, from YouTube. So you got the questions coming at you, but what really makes you passionate about synthesizing this information, putting it out there to help more people ride?
The motivation for me is just how much I love it. And like, I actually see so many benefits to it, and I want to share. I talked a lot about like what it helps personally, like it makes a big impact on our lives personally. But I'm also super motivated when you go to a city that's great for cycling and you see so many people on bikes and like the benefits it brings to a city. That's really motivating for me too, right? The way that it can change the feel of a street, like it changes the tone. If you get great, well-used bike lanes on a street, it just calms the street down. It makes it much more hospitable to people who are on foot or sitting on patios on the street. it's much nicer. It reduces sort of the hostility of the street. It opens people's eyes to like better neighborhoods and that sort of thing too. So, both of those things motivate me a lot. I love visiting cities. I mean, I live in Canada in a city called Calgary. That's, it's decent for cycling, but we've got a long way to go. But there are pockets of it that are really good. And so just seeing, I just love, riding down a busy street with lots of pedestrians on the sidewalk and, people are there enjoying it compared to a street that's got 4 lanes of cars that are moving really quickly. It just changes the whole dynamic of the street. So I think both those things really motivate me. And, I think my kids motivated me too. Like, I think that it should be easier for them. Like it wasn't always easy for me to ride my bike places. And I think it should be easy for kids to ride their bikes to school and to get places, and it gives them independence. And we've really taken that away. Have you seen those statistics on the number of kids who ride their bike to school over the last 40 years? Like, it's just like this plummeting number. And like, I think we've lost something with that. Like, I think childhood is better if you've got a bit of independence and there's, your parents can trust you to go out and ride your bike around safely. We've lost a lot of that. So I think that's a big motivator for me as well. I'd love to get that back for a lot of kids.
Well, you talk about cycling and, you talk about the passion that you obviously have for it, but I know that you also have a real job to do every day. So for you personally, what is it that inspires you or invigorates you or really makes you want to take the time to create the content, to field questions from people in a very non-linear way? I mean, you're getting questions from email, from Patreon, from YouTube. So you got the questions coming at you, but what really makes you passionate about synthesizing this information, putting it out there to help more people ride?
Yeah, there's a link either from my YouTube channel, which is called Shifter Cycling, or my website, which is at shifter.info. It'll take you straight there. It's built on a really nice platform. You sign up for it there. It's all online. There's 2 hours of brand new video. There's a bunch of little quizzes and downloadable PDFs, some functional things. We've got a little sheet that's questions to ask at the bike shop. I know a lot of people are intimidated to go into bike shops. And so questions to ask, I think that's helpful. There's even a little chart identifying the parts of a bike. I think a lot of people don't know the difference between a down tube and a fork, those sorts of things. So that's there as well. So yeah, the best place is probably through YouTube or at shifter.info.
Yeah, that's great. One thing that comes up a lot is the jargon of cycling that can sometimes be off-putting for people, whether they don't know the terminology that's being used or whether it feels like it's this insider society that you're not allowed to be a part of. But how do you help demystify that and make it really accessible for people?
Yeah, I think it can be too. I don't even love doing it I'm over doing bike maintenance on my own bikes. There is among cyclists, there's almost like this point of pride. I do all my own maintenance, or I got a flat tire and I fixed it myself. And if you can't do that, you're not a real cyclist. I'm done with all that. I don't want to do any of that. So my strategy is just to eliminate all that from my life as much as I can. So I want to, I want a bike that's just going to work and I don't have to worry about it too much. So I think that's super important to me. The intimidation of going to a bike shop is real. And I don't think the burden should be on the consumer, right? I think one of the things I love about Priority is how you guys are trying to make this more open, more accessible to people. I talk about bikes every day. I've been making content for 15 years. I've written a book. And I'm still scared to go into bike shops sometimes. I still get made to feel like I don't know anything. So I feel like the industry is the place where this needs to change. And I think it is changing. It's better than it used to be. And the stuff that you guys are doing is super important to that. And there's way more bike shops now than there used to be that are open and welcoming. I met a bike shop owner recently who made it his mission to only hire female bike mechanics because he thinks it just changes the conversation. It makes the dynamic so much different and way more encouraging to get people who are not experts in cycling in there as well. So I'm happy to see those things changing. I mean, this is a question for you too. How do you guys do it? What do you think about that?
Well, look, in 11 years of Priority, I've always been lucky to have expert mechanics around. So I think me learning bike maintenance probably happens only once or twice a year, but I do make an effort to try and get my hands dirty when I can. I think the problem for me is that when we've got these expert mechanics around, anytime I get my hands on a bike, first of all, they tell me not to do it. And second of all, they're watching over my shoulder and I get nervous. So, but I do think that what's nice with that is I think I'm able to meet that where the interest is for me. So if I want to try making my bike tubeless, like I can go for it and I can try it. Or if I want to change something out, like I can start doing that. And I think the learning from that is that it's really important to allow people who are coming to cycling to meet them where they are, as opposed to trying to force them to where I am. And so for commuters, I mean, I'm very comfortable commuting every day, but if somebody just wants to get it started and they're like, well, I'm nervous to just start on Monday, so I want to ride Sunday morning when the roads are quiet just to test my route. I need to be the person that's like, that's awesome. Go for it. Like, get your confidence up. And I think what we find through this process is the more we can demystify it, the more we can humanize it, is most important. Because I think that just gives permission for people to do it in their own lives. And I think that's something for us too. When we've created content around rides we're doing, a lot of times it's like showing warts and all. If there's times where it's difficult, or if we mess something up, or we get a flat, like, I think it's great to show that stuff, because it just shows that there's ups and downs, there's learning points. That's totally normal. And to make people comfortable wherever they are, to know that that's just part of the process and it's totally fine. So, we really just want to meet people. We want to allow ourselves to meet people where they are, and let people find their excitement and their levels of engagement. So yeah, it's always a process, but I know in making this, it's a ton of work, and I know you also have a great co-writer who you've worked with on this.
Yeah, I've got a great partner on this project. It's an old friend of mine. Her name's Kaylin Klingbeil. She's a journalist who's, just great in the community. She has a great outdoor Substack. She used to run an urban book club where we get together and read nerdy books about urban planning and that kind of stuff too. It's just another like bike person. She's got really young kids and like bought a cargo bike last year, and transformed her family's life in that way as well. So she's been great, and this is a ton of work. So I couldn't have done it without some help on it. But those bike people exist everywhere. The one thing I've learned about YouTube is like there's this core in every city of people who really love transportation cycling, who really see a better future for it, and they seem to crop up all over the place too. So it's been really gratifying to see that community sort of come together over the years as well.
All right. So how do you feel about comments and questions coming to you via social media?
Yeah, comments and questions are great. One thing that's emerged over the years is no one believes me when I say this, but the comment section on my YouTube channel is like strangely positive and encouraging. Like, people think that's just a cesspool of negativity, but like there's a really good community there. And if you put a question out there, someone's going to answer. There's also a community through the course as well. So that's going to be a great place as it builds out. There's going to be more people there posing questions, sharing their experiences and that kind of stuff too. So yeah, I want this to be open and encouraging and accessible. There's no dumb questions, so people can fire them at me through the course, through YouTube, on social media, through Patreon, anywhere. Yeah, I'll do my best to get them out there, and Kaylin's here helping out as well. So we've got lots of resources that people can use.
That's awesome. All right, I got some quick questions for you.
Okay. Oh, is this like the speed round?
Nah, I don't know if it's a speed round, but just some curiosities to delve into. So first question for you, sleeper city. What's a city that you've gone to where you were surprised at how accessible it was for riders?
Victoria, British Columbia. It's not a huge city. I don't know if anyone's even heard of it. It's the capital of British Columbia here in Canada. Maybe 500,000 people. What struck me about that city is I've never seen this in North America. It's a cargo bike city. The proportion of people on cargo bikes was shocking to me. It's got pretty good bike lanes, like good rail trails. It's developing, but like everywhere I turned my head, there was like a mom riding her kids around in a cargo bike, and I think it's because there's a great bike shop there that sells cargo bikes, and they've done a ton of work on the community, and they've brought people together. There's also like cargo bike meetups at the playground where people bring their bikes and their kids. So that was fun. It's a cool city too. It's also got a great sort of urban core. It never lost that sort of that early density for that city. So it's a beautiful, cool, small city.
Yeah, it's great. What has been your favorite down the line cycling city? It's known for it and it's great. May not be that surprising for us, but what's your favorite cycling city?
Oh, I hate to talk about Europe because people act like it's Mars, like we'll never get there. But the transformation of Paris over the last 5 years is unbelievable. Like going from like a car clogged city where you couldn't get anywhere to today being one of the top bike cities probably in the world. I was there even 3 years ago when I first went, and I was lucky enough to go back this year. Unbelievable. So many cyclists, bike lanes everywhere. The pace of change has been amazing. And it also makes me think when we're in North America and people say, there's not enough space to add bike lanes. We're crowded already. And like, if a city like Paris, which is dense and old and crowded, can do it, then there's no excuse. It can happen anywhere else. I need to come back to New York since congestion pricing went in. I feel like there's probably a change there I need to see, eh?
Oh, no, man, don't come to New York. Don't come to New York. The bike paths are far too crowded. No, just kidding. It's actually great. More and more people are riding in New York. I think the biggest challenge is that all of the new riders don't yet understand that if you're just cruising at a slow speed, it's okay to just gently move to the right. But I do think that people don't really understand. I think people who aren't from New York or maybe haven't been here getting outside in New York, I don't think people realize that, it is a city where if you're a runner or you're a cyclist, like there are miles, tens of miles, hundreds of miles that you can really take advantage right out of your door in New York City, which is really great, and I do think though that the increase of people cycling is something that is great for the city as a whole. But I do think that we're in a phase where people are learning how to be good citizens collectively on a bicycle. And I think that there's probably a lot of cities like that. And there is a challenge for seasoned riders. I think maybe to sort of temper some of their expertise. But I do also think for newer riders, it's a really good opportunity to kind of understand just the basic rules of the road. And I know that's not just isolated to New York.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a transition phase in a lot of cities right now too, right? Where we've, created this world where we expect deliveries instantly, and then we're surprised when there's conflict on our bike lanes, right? I think we haven't quite worked out all of that, so hopefully we'll get to a better place. And it's really interesting to me how different cities have approached, the scooters versus bike share versus not debates, right? Like a city like Montreal, which is also amazing bike city, maybe my favorite in North America. There's no scooters, right? And so that changes the dynamic there in lots of ways too. So yeah, super interesting. I'm hoping to go back to Minneapolis. I was there maybe 10 years ago and was really impressed with was happening with cycling there. And I think they've made good progress as well. So I'd love to see that.
Yeah, Minneapolis is great. I think we met you in Minneapolis, but we did an event there a few years ago. And when we were there, I remember some Minneapolis people talking about how they had the most protected bike lanes or the most mileage within the city. And whether or not that's true, who cares? We just know that it's a great cycling vibe there. It's really accessible and really fun.
Yeah, there is definitely different cities have different cycling vibes. I think that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, look, that's a separate podcast for us to talk about vibes and good and bad cycling energy out there on the road. I know that there's times where I probably bring in a little bit of negative vibes out there, but I'm working on it. So last question for you, your favorite cycling accessory?
I'll give you two. One is practical, and a convertible backpack pannier is like, it's a game changer. Once you get something off your back and onto your bike, you realize, it's just so much better. Why do I need this thing on my back? It makes me sweaty. It hurts my back. But then you also want to be able to pick it up and take it with you. So I love those. And I love a good quality bell, a nice bell that has like a solid ring. I don't know what it is. It just gives me like visceral pleasure when you ring a nice bell. You don't want a cheap little thing that's just like, is flopping around, as you ride. I want a nice quality bell. That ding gives me weird satisfaction.
Yes, the bell is something that is a very underutilized accessory, I think, for new riders. Because I think when you're first starting riding, you think that the sound of the bell is so aggressive. It's almost like you're yelling at people, but then you realize as you're riding that you're actually yelling at people, and that's not very effective. So finding a good bell is very important. So no, that's great. Oh no, but I forget one other question for you. I didn't want to forget this one, but
Yeah.
Are you team headphones or no headphones?
I don't shame people who choose to use headphones. Like I understand that can do it, but I'm a no headphones guy, and it's mostly because I just want the time. There's so little time in the day when I don't have some input coming in. So, I've tried listening to podcasts on bike rides, and I just enjoy the experience better without anything. I just want to like get out there and enjoy the ride. So yeah, no headphones for me.
Yeah, there's definitely a safety issue. I'm an open ear headphone person, volume low, but I do think it's important for me to be able to hear people. I do think when the road is crowded, I will keep my headphones out. But it's really interesting as the weather's gotten better and people have gotten outside. There's just more people you see riding
Yeah.
who just have like noise canceling earbuds in, and they can't hear anything, and they're cruising on the left, and it's challenging. I'm sure that there's like a correlation between good weather, headphones, and accidents that we could easily plot out.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about winter cycling on another conversation as well.
And also, one of the things that we're doing alongside your course for people is we're putting together a bundle. And we know that there's already a challenge in finding the right bike for somebody, or for somebody choosing the right bike. But I think there's also this step that when you get the right accessories, riding your bike is just a lot easier. So for you, how helpful is it to be able to say, hey, here's just the starter pack. Here's your starting point, or the things you just want to grab because you know it's just going to make the experience better.
Yeah, I think if you can get a good kit to get started, it just sort of like accelerates the learning curve, I think, as well. So, if you've got your bike good to go, and you've got a good bag, and you've got some lights on your bike, and some of the basics like that, that's just like eliminates some of the thinking you have to do about every little piece too. I think like a nice basic kit can just get you out there and get going, and then you can start focusing on sort of like the tier 2 gear that you might need. Just get those basics covered, get you out there and comfortable and working, and then you can sort of specify or get more specific from there. So I think a nice core kit is something that I would have liked when I first started. It took me years to figure out, the right bag and when do I need lights or do I need lights, that kind of stuff too. So I think a bundle is a great idea. Just anything to help lower that, shrink that learning curve up. Wait, does a curve go lengthwise? A curve, make the curve a little less steep. How about that?
Yeah, no, you're right. And you talk about the stages of it, whether it goes this way or that way. But I think being able to start with the right kit so that your ride is comfortable, you feel confident, you have the essentials for what you need, I think can plot you on that path. And then in time, if you find out, hey, I want to change what I'm wearing, or I want to change my bags, or I want to incorporate other parts into my ride, maybe stopping at a grocery store on the way home. I think when you've got that right foundation, it really opens up your ability to just focus on getting from A to B. And you want to do that with comfort and confidence.
Yeah, enough comfort and confidence that you make it a habit, and then it becomes an easier part of your life too. I always say too, like sometimes if you're on the fence about riding one day, I always regret when I choose not to ride, but I don't think I've ever regretted when I did choose to ride. So if you can make that decision a little bit easier for people, then I think that's a great service.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, you said it perfectly. And I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the work that y'all have put together in putting this course together. So this is where we run the URL again and people can see it. There's links below where you can download the course. And you can also find links to follow Tom on his platforms on YouTube, at his website, and also to support him on Patreon. So Tom, thank you very much for your time.